What is up, everybody? I'm NoLuxGiven here with your afternoon snap, and today we're going to be using the new $100 Apocalypse variant to take over the throne room. But before we get to that, we've got some other sweet locations to look at as well. Warrior Falls and Bar Sinister really get those gears turning. So I'm thinking we could put Colleen Wing into Bar Sinister. That would let us discard a bunch of swarms, maybe the Morbius as well, but then we could use the swarms to fuel Lockjaw, and that could be really cool. I'm just going to go with Morbius, try to actually win this location though, because I don't know what my opponent is playing just yet, and I felt like this was a safer play, because if I put Colleen Wing there, I'm basically giving up that location. My opponent can beat that very, very easily. They're going to play a Colossus into Warrior Falls, which I think is nice. Now I can play Colleen Wing there without having to worry about if it's going to get destroyed later on. And then my opponent plays a Cosmo into Throne Room. Kind of had an idea that they would be playing Destroyer anyways, but this definitely confirms it. They're going to try to win the Throne Room with a big Destroyer, but we draw this brand new $100 Apocalypse. And this was actually my first game getting to draw this Apocalypse, so I was pretty excited. Thinking about playing Hell Cow here. Obviously, we can't discard or use any on-reveal effects to discard things by playing them into the throne room, so I'm probably just going to wind up swarming there. There's definitely some options to play on this turn, but honestly, I just go with Lady Sif, so that way I can definitely discard Apocalypse this turn and show off this brand new $100 variant. So there it is in all of its glory. We're going to be seeing that again shortly, I'm sure. And my opponent throws an armor into Warrior Falls, so completely turning off that location entirely. We draw Dracula on turn 5, which is a pretty nice draw. Will definitely help to power up our Apocalypse later on in the game and allow us to battle for this throne room. My opponent plays Captain America plus Mojo into Warrior Falls, but I think we're going to be able to win these other two locations. So I'm going to drop Hell Cow and Swarms, and then we're going to just hope that we can discard Apocalypse to Dracula. And if we do, then I think we've got a decent chance to win this one. There is my opponent's 30 power Destroyer. Hell Cow is going to discard the Apocalypse once and discard another card from our hand, our Lockjaw. And then, do we get the 50-50? We are able indeed to discard that Apocalypse, so that allows me to take over the throne room and win the game. It was close, but we were able to do it. So now I want to talk about the purchase. This Cyber Holiday bundle. This is going to be a slightly longer video. I wrote out this Twitter thread here, and I just kind of wanted to go through this. And then I think also while I go through this, I'll have some games on the side of the screen with this deck that I also played last night that you can watch as we follow along here. But one thing that I used to do when I wrote about Pokemon Go for Game Press, for anybody that's been with the channel for a little bit now, is I would break down the different sales that were in the shop. Mostly I did this as a consumer first. I wanted to know if I should be purchasing these things, if they were a good deal or not. So that made me want to dive into the math of it. Now, Game Press doesn't cover Marvel Snap, so I don't have anywhere else to put this article. I'm just putting it on Twitter, and we'll follow along here on YouTube. But this bundle has a lot of things going on. 9,500 credits, a sweet new avatar. It's not just, or a sweet new card variant rather. It's not just that you are paying $100 for this variant, you're getting a bunch of other stuff too. And basically, for the TLDR, I thought all of that other stuff justified this purchase, and that is why I wound up pulling the trigger. The start of this was actually written just so everybody knows, like on the same page. When I started writing this, I wasn't sure if I was going to buy it or not, and I slowly convinced myself over time, and you'll see the phrasing of it shift throughout that, and that is the reason why. And I started writing this, and my partner texted me asking what I was doing, and I said, oh, I'm going to do a review of this bundle, see if it's a good deal or not. And she says, well, That's a lot of gold. I'm not sure if that is a good deal. And I'll be honest, I hadn't noticed. I have so much gold in Marvel Snap just from playing as a free-to-play player. I have never spent any money on the game. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I'm just letting you know about my perspective. So I didn't realize at first that this was a $100 purchase, and I went back and I added this part in. This is a lot of gold, right? So I want to get that out of the way first. I understand that this purchase isn't going to be for everybody, that it can't be for everybody. And for that, this part of the video might not necessarily be for everybody, but that's why there's more games on the side of the screen, I suppose, too. But I want to just at least address that aspect of all of this first, and also just kind of, I guess, say that as a free-to-play player, you can work towards purchases like this in the future, and I'm kind of going to talk about that at the end as well. But if you agree that this is a good deal, you can still stay a free-to-play player and potentially get this deal. Maybe you get it next year, to save some of your gold for the holiday season when Marvel Snap is coming around. So that's definitely something to consider with all of this. Also, if you don't think spending or saving your gold is fun, do what you find fun. Your mileage may vary. I'm definitely a very frugal person and a hoarder. If you take a look at my collection, in literally any game that I play, I have so much currency and I never spend any of it. Just kind of what I find fun. I try to get as far as I can, really stretching every little part of it there. You could also potentially make this purchase for $30 plus your current gold, especially if you've been playing since the beta like myself, or you have purchased season passes and stuff like that. So I don't want to talk about can you buy this, because obviously that's a question you have to answer yourself. You either can buy this or you can't. If you can't buy this, this isn't a good deal. You can stop watching now unless you want to watch the games on the sidebar. But I just want to stress that if this is out of your price range for any reason, don't worry about it. And you can potentially save for other deals in the future. But the question that I wanted to answer wasn't, can you buy this, but should you buy this? If you have the gold, if you have the money, if you're otherwise interested in spending in Marvel Snap, is this a good deal? And that's where I wanted to talk about here. If you're concerned about deals at all, first, the simple math. 9,500 credits is normally worth 7,600 gold, 100 gold more. So you're getting a slight deal here, 1.3% in savings. Not too much, but I did still want to bring up that point. If your only goal is to spend in the shop, you can purchase 500 credits for 400 gold. And that's something that a lot of people do to help advance their collection. If you are just interested in it from that capacity, it's not really like a deal. That's why it's in quotation marks. It's 1.3%, not something to get super excited about. But I would still say that it, at the very least, is a good rate, right? And we've looked at some boxes in the past in games like Pokemon Go, where you spend a whole bunch of money and you're actually secretly getting a worse deal because they throw a whole bunch of stuff at you that you don't want. Also, similarly, in that vein, in Pokemon Go, I never value lucky eggs in the deals. In the same way, I'm not going to value the boosters that appear in this one, and I'm also not really going to value the avatar, though that has value for you if it does. And we'll talk about the art after we talk about the actual numbers here. So everyone, or most people in the game, just received at least 3,000 collector's tokens. So an additional 3,000 might not look like a lot to some of you. To others, it might actually look like a lot. But basically, we don't truly know the value that tokens are going to represent if every season pass comes with a whole bunch of collector's tokens. You might not value them as highly in the future. But for a lot of people, for newer players, that's 3 cards. So maybe you value it even higher than I do. And part of the trick with all this was trying to come up with values that I felt people could agree with. So I'm going to be lowballing it. You might really, really value 3,000 collector's tokens. I'm going to be putting it like towards the bottom, but I think that most people would say that the tokens are going to be worth more than what I'm even saying they're worth. So to think about it that way. But if you're going to spend these tokens on just Series 3 cards, like I said, the value is probably a little bit higher to you. The way that I'm going to do it, after you've completed Series 3, after you have all of the cards from Series 3, in every 4 collector's reserves, you're going to be able to get 500 collector's tokens. Each set of 4 collector's reserves comes with a card, which will later be replaced with 400 tokens after you've unlocked all of the cards, 100 collector's tokens, some amount of credits or gold, which I'll also consider that in just a second, and then 1 cosmetic, like a variant, an avatar, or a title. So in order to receive 500 tokens as one of these endgame players, you're going to have to progress 48 collection levels. And 3,000 is of course going to be 6 times that. Now, you'll also get some other things along the way, like you would have gotten some variants and things like that. So that is definitely worth factoring into this math, and it's a little bit hard to quantify. But the other thing that I have to say is, of course, if you don't have all of the cards from Series 3, then you're going to be getting collector's tokens at a much slower rate, 1/5 of that rate, or 30 times the 48 there. So that's going to take a lot longer, but I'm just going to take a look at the math for some of those endgame players, which you will eventually get to, especially with an additional 9,500 credits from this purchase. And this is going to take 288 collection levels to otherwise open 3,000 tokens, multiplying all of that by 6. In credit terms, this would cost about 13,000 credits. And in gold terms, 13,000 credits would cost you about 10,000 gold. The reason that I say 13,000 credits, because obviously 288 levels is 14,400 credits, but as you progress through the track, you are going to get some of those, some gold and some of those credits back in return while leveling up. So this is all for perspective. Again, when we look at the math this way, it's not really including the variants. Let's assume you'll get a bunch of titles and avatars that you wouldn't otherwise be able to use, but of course you might get a variant in all of that leveling up as well. I'm using this as a baseline though, so that way we can just look at, is this a good sale? We've got to convert it to gold so we can compare the gold value of what we're getting versus the gold value that we're putting into this. Obviously, like I said, if you're still at Series 3, you're going to be getting not nearly as many tokens, so you may value them a whole lot higher. You could look at 3K tokens and just see a She-Hulk when you take a look at this bundle. You might see half a Thanos, or you might even see 3 new cards that can help you fill out a deck that you've really been wanting to play because you've been watching somebody on YouTube play it, or just think that some of those cards look cool. Endgame players are going to have a much easier access to tokens, and thus they might value them a little bit less. So I would say that this is kind of the minimum. And I'm being careful with how much I throw that around because I don't want to make this seem crazy. We don't fully know the availability of tokens in the future, but this is the current availability of tokens. And for that, I think it's worth about 10,000 gold. So I would say that the full sale, if we translate to this gold, the tokens that you get plus the credits are going to be worth 17,920 gold altogether, which makes this a 58% discount. And that's only if this is how you value the tokens here. Let me change that live. Great. I have not posted this yet, as you can see. But of course, there might be another reason that you're considering this purchase, and that's also something that we got to talk about a little bit. This Kim Jacinto Apocalypse variant. So maybe you're into it for this. Maybe you're a huge Kim Jacinto fan. Maybe you just like the sweet artwork. I'm personally a huge fan of Dracula discard, and you can use the tokens, like I said, to fill out and purchase the rest of this deck if you don't have the Hell Cow yet, if you don't have the Moon Knight, if you don't have the Dracula. I believe that this deck, oh, that's right, I wrote it here. This deck contains 4 cards from Series 3. So you can finish purchasing the rest of the deck with these tokens. And I also included a link to another video that I mentioned from a few days ago where I got the perfect curve with this deck. Check that one out if you have not already. When it comes to variants, though, that is all going to be extremely subjective, and it's going to be impossible for me to value that artwork for you. But I'm going to bring up some points here. I will say that just for one small point, since new variants start at the common level with the gray border, you get 1 discounted upgrade anytime you buy a new variant. So that's technically worth 25 credits, which I would say is worth 20 gold if we use that same 5-to-4 gold or credits to gold ratio there. And ultimately, I think it's probably safe to count a variant as being worth 700 gold just by itself, because that's the lowest price that you can purchase it at. Though I did want to take a look at the sale not including the variant, of course, because not everybody is going to care about the variant, and even if you don't, I still think that this is a pretty dang good deal, as I have illustrated. I do think that that is going to be a point of contention. For the 7,500 gold that you use to buy Apocalypse, you could get 6 to almost 11 other variants at that 700 to 1,200 range. So you kind of have to decide, and you've probably already made that decision for yourself, if you'd rather buy all of these things, and maybe that's just simply not worth it to you. The question is, like, is this worth it if it was like a 7,000 gold variant? And my answer to that is still actually a maybe. I just wanted to bring this point up to say that I'm personally kind of intrigued by the idea of the exclusivity itself. It's part of the reason that I used the Iron Man variant in the game before I got this one. I also really like Robert Downey Jr. in the MCU, but it's also because it is the Season 1 avatar from the beta ranked set there, and not everybody has it yet. I do believe it's going to be coming around for more players in the future, but for right now, it's something that makes me feel a little bit special. And in that way, the rare skin, rare, $100, kind of justifies itself in the same way that you buy Yeezys for the price tag or some other luxury brand that isn't canceled. I'm not sure. I don't want to claim that something isn't canceled, because it probably is. We'll say Louis Vuitton or something. You purchase these things because of the sticker price. And I think that this can sort of operate in that same way, that same paradigm there. So the question is going to come down to exclusivity in some capacity. Is this a 700 gold skin, or is it a 7,000 gold skin? And while I do think the idea of $100 skins are a little bit much, other free-to-play games have shown that this is definitely a model that can work. There's a market for this. I haven't heard any word yet in terms of the exclusivity actually of this. And I do think you're going to have people upset either way. If it's exclusive, then there's going to be people upset because they can't have it. And if it isn't exclusive, there's going to be people upset that they bought it and now it's no longer exclusive. I do want to say, I think that there's something a little bit awkward, a little bit weird about it being a $100 exclusive purchase. Though I will again stress, I got it for free. Plus being time gated, then you're starting to play a little bit into the psychology of it all to make people feel pressured into purchasing this, and I will be talking about that more as well as we go on. At the same time, I would feel bad for people that dropped 100 bones for this, and then later it is worth 1/11 of the price. That doesn't feel great either. To those upset about the $100 skin, I hear you, but this is actually really a... have to edit that part. I redid some of my math. 50, we'll write in there again, 58% discount. That's really what you're getting here, plus a free skin. So I'd say it's a free skin, and you're really paying for the discount, because that's why I purchased this, to be totally transparent. I convinced myself it was a good enough deal regardless, and then I'm just getting a cool skin on top of that. So that kind of helped me justify my purchase, and I probably wouldn't have otherwise. As you can tell, I haven't purchased any variants up until this point. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about the exclusivity of it. So Marvel Snap does have some exclusive stuff. I believe the avatars and the card backs that you get from ranked up rewards each season are exclusive. And I think that stuff that you purchase on the season pass isn't exclusive. And the team explicitly kind of hasn't said that any variants or anything are exclusive. But at the same time, I think that they're still not really incentivized to give out this $100 variant cheaper down the line, or it's going to lose some of that perceived value. I would say that this is likely to remain exclusive. Now, what exclusive is going to mean could look different down the line. Maybe in 4 months, you're going to see this in a similarly priced bundle, and then it would still retain that exclusivity and of course not have the time-gated element to it. What gets awkward about that is there's so much sweet Marvel Universe artwork. So they're probably going to use new artwork for similar bundles in the future. Maybe they will price this down. Maybe they will have something where for just 3,000 gold, you can pick up this skin. So it still has some level of exclusivity beyond just being a variant, but isn't available in the exact same way. I will say that you could always wait and potentially purchase a future similar bundle, especially if you like this deal, but don't necessarily like the card or the artwork that we have featured here. There's probably, I won't even say probably, there are definitely going to be other bundles in the future. So no harm in waiting if you don't like this one. This apocalypse could be gone forever. And I've wanted to stress all of the, you see you've got the word FOMO in the next tweet. I don't think that's going to happen though. And that's what I want to stress here with this. While it could, and I need to cover that too, I think that there's no reason for the developers to lock themselves in to not re-releasing this thing. And they shouldn't. They should be able to re-release old cosmetics down the line as a purchaser of this that likes the fact that it's an exclusive and elite purchase. I still think this should be available to players a year from now for people that want it. It just makes sense for the people that want it still, and it makes sense for the developers to try to grab some more money from it. So I do think that it should still be available, as well as card backs and avatars. I don't fault them for re-releasing any of that back into the game. However, if they just put this into the game as a $700 purchase, then you might have some players that start to rethink the next time they see a $100 deal in the shop. So I think that the devs are incentivized to give this some layer of exclusivity, but still have it be available and open the door for availability in the future. That's where my head's at with it. I see this potentially coming back in 5 months for half the price, but you don't get the credits with it, or something like that. So there you go. FOMO aside, because that is definitely a part of all of this that I had to address, but I came here to talk about the math, and mathematically, I think this is a fine deal. I think it's a good deal and potentially even a great deal now that I've edited some of the numbers here. And as a free-to-play player that was saving all of my gold, but I didn't quite know why I was doing so, I think this is a great opportunity to spend some of that gold. And after making this purchase, what I'm probably going to do is continue to save all of my gold and wait and hang on till the next deal comes around. And I think that that's a big part of the lesson here. Again, your mileage may vary. Do what you find fun. Of course, Marvel Snap is a game, but there will be more bundles in the future. So consider that next time you purchase a variant in the shop. You can't lock variants in the shop, so that definitely makes you a little bit more tempting to just hit that purchase button. But there will be more bundles in the future. I also think that Second Dinner is likely still figuring out what works and doesn't work as far as what players are willing to buy. But I do expect to see more bundles at this price point and lower price points as well, as they try to figure out what players are willing to spend on. And when they do release more bundles, I'll be here to break those down as well. And by here, I maybe mean that I'll be writing this article for a website. And I tagged a bunch of websites there that are cool Marvel Snap websites to check out, and maybe one of those I could write for in the future. But for now, you can catch me on Twitter posting about Marvel Snap, and you can also find me here. You already are. If you've watched this far along, I don't even gotta say it, hit that subscribe button. What are you doing? I am almost at 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So please hit that sub button. Let me know also in the comments or on the tweet if I convinced you. I'll tell you this, I convinced myself, as you can see with this video. And yeah, I'm going to include a link to this video in this tweet, which is the videos about the tweet. It's yeah, kind of confusing, but there will be a link there to this video, but you don't have to click that because you're already here. So actual thoughts on the variant, now that, you know, most of that's out of the way of if it's a good deal or not. Let's take a look at the actual variant, right? Yeah, maybe this is what everybody was here to see in the first place. First of all, I do actually think, and I'll scroll up for this, I think the avatar is a little bit low resolution. Maybe I should not have done that. Okay, great. The avatar is a little bit low resolution here when you zoom into it, and maybe I've only got my jeweler's loop out looking into this because it was a $100 purchase. But for a $100 purchase, you do expect the things to be a little bit more premium. There are some variants in the game, for those of you that don't know, that have like additional sweet animations and things like that. So I could have maybe liked to see a little bit more care put into some of that. If we take a look at what happens when Apocalypse is discarded, it will reform on the screen. We looked at that earlier, and maybe some of those are going on the sidebar as well. That animation is the exact same as the base form for Apocalypse. So yeah, that is a little bit awkward that you're not really getting too much more in that capacity. And the one thing that I will say though, is that for it being a 6-cost card, you're obviously getting to see Apocalypse a lot more than you would just like a Hulk or an Infinite or something like that. Because every single time that you discard him, he's going to show up on the screen in full glory to say, hey, look at me. I spent $100 on this variant. So you'll definitely get to see him a lot. And yeah, you'll have a bunch of chances to do so. That's going to be it for me today. A pretty long video here, lot to cover. Let me know if you enjoyed this style of content. Definitely a little bit weird just reading my own tweet, but hopefully the games kept you entertained as well. And if you were on the fence about whether or not to purchase Apocalypse, now you've got a better idea. But that is going to be it for me today. So thank you guys very much for watching. I'm No Lex Given. Peace.